Afternoon and welcome to News Today. I am Emefa Akosia Adeti. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana faces a fresh economic challenge as the United States slaps a 10% tariff on exports, while concerns grow over the impact on the Ghana-US relations. U.S. Ambassador Virginia Palmer insists Ghana remains a key partner.
No matter what the change in language and how we express it or the change in focus, Ghana is a really important partner of the United States and will continue to be so.
Also coming up, ECG containers are not missing but misplaced at the port. That is a clarification from former MD Dubuque Mahama.
My candid opinion is containers cannot get missing. They can be misplaced. If they get lost at sea, you are immediately informed.
Well, also President John Mahama sounds alarm on potential severe flooding, citing delays in Garrett project as major concern. We have details as he calls for urgent action, urging authorities to fast-track these critical projects before the heavy rains begin. We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 1 till 5. We have business, sports and showbiz. Joy News, we are independent, fearless, credible. Please stay for details. We appreciate your company this afternoon. Now first, Ghana export sector faces a fresh setback as the United States slaps a 10% tariff on key exports, affecting trade volumes and increasing financial costs for businesses, a move that follows sweeping trade policies authorized by U.S. President Donald Trump. The executive order, which affects several trading partners, is expected to rattle global trade relations, and Ghana is no exception. With bilateral trade between Ghana and the U.S. valued at $3 billion, concerns are rife that tariff could strain relations. However, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, insists that despite the policy shift, Ghana remains an important partner to the United States.
The United States and Ghana have a very long-standing, close relationship, as you all know, and it's founded on kind of four pillars, I think. The first is historical and cultural, and something more than $3 billion in bilateral trade and investment is another kind of key pillar, and that's goods and services, but oil and gas going from here, gold going from here, pharmaceuticals, automobiles coming from the United States. So it's something that builds prosperity in both Ghana and the United States. So all of that to say that no matter what the change in language and how we express it or the change in focus, Ghana is a really important partner of the United States and will continue to be so. And I think the sort of emphasis on those things are really exciting because, again, the United States is behind Ghana's economic recovery. And that's through things like the World Bank and the IMF, but also American company interest in coming here. And there's going to be a big trade mission, which I can't announce yet, but it's coming. And I think there'll be a big U.S.-Africa business summit here next year. And I think both of those things will be good signals of the interest from American business in Ghana.
Now, the policy will impact industries exporting cocoa, textiles, agriculture products, among others, while Washington cites economic protectionism as the reason. Experts say Ghanaian exporters and businesses could face rising costs and potential job losses. Now, lead data and research analyst Isaac Kofi is here to give meaning to the figures in the Ghana-America trade. Now, Kofi, always a pleasure to see you because you always put it in a better perspective. What will we be learning today? Well,
so what looked like just a campaign promise is now being materialized. So in the 2024 lead up to that election, we all realized that apart from immigration, the biggest, item for President Trump was trade. And he is, making this come into fruition by announcing this, sweeping tariff announcement. Let's go to the next slide that talks about what he promised to do in terms of tariffs. Apart from cutting taxes, he said that one way that America was going to raise revenue was to perform, sweeping tariff on imports. and how sweeping is this new announcement that we are seeing. So let's look at the map and see how this is going to affect the global space. Let's look at that. You can see those in red. If you find yourself in deep red, it means you are in trouble. And you are right. I usually don't hold papers, but these are two, sheets that, America, if you are still in the baseline, list, it means that you're still in America's good books. If you find yourself in the worst offenders list, it means that America really wants to deal with you in terms of reciprocal tariffs. So you see those who are in red. And let's come to Africa, for instance. You can see that the northern part of the continent actually has some sort of reds in there. Morocco, Algeria are all included. But in West Africa, it's relatively, yellow in terms of the tariff imposition, except for Ivory Coast, that saw some reddish, movement in terms of the magnitude of the tariff. But if you look at countries like Nigeria and Ghana, we are still within the baseline. But let me go through the baseline figures, and if you find yourself
before
on
you go
this
to the
list,
baseline, you didn't tell us what reciprocal tariffs are.
The reciprocal ones, it means that U.S. is looking at the magnitude of the tariffs you are putting on their goods, and then they will reciprocate with, maybe the same or higher tariff. Right. Absolutely. When it comes to Ghana, we have a 17% tariff on goods coming from the U.S. They have reciprocated by giving us a 10% tariff on our goods, meaning that we are still in the good books of the U.S. So we find ourselves in the same bracket as the United Kingdom, and also Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Turkey, Colombia, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates, which means that Ghana finds itself within that good bracket. But this is for the worst offenders. And we don't like to be in this, on this list. China is number one in terms of not the magnitude, but in terms of being targeted as a big economy. But in terms of magnitude, you can talk about a small country in Africa called Lesotho. Right. Why? Because Lesotho and Cambodia all has very high tariffs on U.S. goods. Lesotho, for instance, poses some 99% tariff on U.S. They have actually reciprocated by giving them that big tariff. That's why you see Lesotho and South Africa all in red. And so China, for instance, is suffering 54% tariff, including old ones that are still existing. Thailand is number one. It's also there, 36%. Japan, 24%. Cambodia, I've made mention of that, and Taiwan, 32%. So what you see is that, depending on the tariff you are placing on America, they will come back and then, impose maybe an equal or higher one. What they are doing has just one goal. It's for you to come to the negotiation table to negotiate. If you want to bring your tariff down, the U.S. will be also willing, or Trump is willing to consider you and bring the tariff down. But let's look at...
Does it look like we have a negotiating power?
Well, I don't think that... I think Ghana is still in the baseline, so I don't think that we will go... Because where are you going to negotiate to? You are already at the lowest bottom, right? You are in the same bracket
Basically
as
be grateful.
Absolutely. Right. You're in the same bracket as the United Kingdom, which is the darling boy of the U.S. So be content. Right. But what we are saying is that usually when Trump or the Republicans are in power, the trade between Africa and U.S. isn't that, high. Just look at between 2016 and 2020 or 2019 when Trump was in office. We are talking about the import, the agua, and everybody is concerned about agua, whether it will be discontinued this year or not. But what we are learning is that when the Democrats or Republicans are actually in power, it always affects trade between, Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and then the U.S. Let's go to Ghana and focus on our trade relationship with the U.S. Let's look at the next slide. I think this for me tells a story where if you look at the one in green, which is imports from the U.S. and exports from the U.S., what you see is that when the Democrats are in power, we have like that flat movement. It isn't actually going up or coming down, but it stays the same. It means that, depending on your economic power, the Republicans will decide to play ball with you. And that is why they've decided to target countries like Canada, China, and the big guys who they know that when they decide to place reciprocal tariff on them and they come back to the negotiations table, they'll get something significant. So it is interesting day, yes. We are still expecting more announcements very soon. But the interesting thing is that although we are crying, we should be grateful that we are in the same bracket as...
I know that the big countries have responded. They haven't responded individually, but collectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
In EU, for instance, is preparing also some sort of tariff against US because, I mean, when you take UK out of EU, US is not able to deal with them. I mean, they suffered about 24% and they are not happy at all.
Yeah.
They are preparing new tariffs for the US. Interesting times ahead.
But for now, Ghana, at least, we should hold mind and soul together, body and mind together. Anyway, thank you so much, Kofi. Well, meanwhile, the diplomat also revealed to Joy News what the future holds for U.S. foreign assistance to Ghana following a 90-day pause on U.S. aid. Now, President John Mahama directed Ghana's finance minister to explore policies to offset a potential revenue loss of $156 million. A significant portion, $70 million, was allocated to life-saving health programs, including the HIV Last Mile project. With the aid suspension nearing its deadline, Ambassador Palmer has assured the life-saving programs will be maintained despite a broader restructuring of U.S. foreign assistance.
We were dealt with almost immediately was a pause and review on foreign assistance of all types. We're almost to the end of that. That kind of 90 days would be April 20th, I think. But many of the programs have been reviewed and changed. Ghana actually has done better than many places. And I'm very pleased that the life-saving programs are all to be continued. So that new phase of partnership will maintain the all of the life-saving programs. So the infant and child mortality programs, maternal health programs, the malaria program continues, our HIV programs continue, the essential medicines and vaccines programs continue.
Now, away from the U.S., a former managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, Samuel Dubik Mahama, has dismissed reports that ECG containers at the port have gone missing. Speaking on the Super Morning Show, he clarified that the containers were never lost but may have been misplaced. He revealed that the Ghana Revenue Authority auctioned the containers during his tenure because ECG failed to clear them due to cash flow challenges.
So the last time the minister spoke, at the beginning of this whole container gate or container saga, he said the containers are in the port. The conversation would have been different if the containers had left the port and they were in the custody of what? ECG. And then the containers got lost from the yard of ECG. Not so. But in this regard, the containers are within the port of the Republic of Ghana and it's within the control of GPHA and Ghana Customs. My candid opinion is containers cannot get missing. They can be misplaced. If they get lost at sea, you are immediately informed. Since there is no record to the fact that containers got lost at sea, because of the international supply chain logistics, there's a platform. When you key in a container, the way bill, who was in control of the container, all of that is there. I just think, we should dial it down a notch. Let's all assist the minister, because we all need to get to the bottom of this, to get to the bottom of where each container sits. And I think it's just a matter of all of us, including ECG, including the two state agencies who are in control of the port, have a proper sit down, go through the paperwork, run it through the system, and definitely we'll come to the right conclusions.
So are you saying the containers are there at the ports?
What I'm saying is the containers cannot get missing. At worst, they have been misplaced, or the only other option of a container leaving the port is through an auction. So there's also a database that will show which containers have been auctioned. So the whole conversation is ECG, yeah, it's okay, fine. In every home there are issues, but the conversation now is this: let's situate it. The containers were in the port. To the best of my knowledge, at the time I was leaving, it was well within. The only people that would give me that full facts was the Director for Materials and Transport. And I believe strongly at that point his main concern was that we were not having enough cash flow to take the containers out of the port.
Okay.
2, there was an investigation under the LNR project. So those bunch of containers, which was quite a number, were also stuck at the port because Yoko was investigating.
How many?
I can't say off the top of my head, but they're quite. Now, PDS also came in. At some point, we realized that some of the containers were being auctioned. So
Auctioned by whom?
By the GRA, by the Customs Division.
While you were there, they started to auction some of these containers.
Yes, it came to my notice, and I responded. I don't know, for some weird reason, some of those letters have found their way into the public domain. I wrote a few letters saying, hey, could you halt on the sale of these containers? Blah. I quite remember, I don't think I got any response on that.
President John Mahama is warning of possible severe flooding as he expresses concern over the Garrett project, which he says are all behind schedule, during a tour of major drainage systems and flood-prone areas with the anti-flood task force. He urged authorities to expedite all projects under Garrett to mitigate the impact of the rains. The Greater Accra Resilience and Integrated Development Project was initiated under the administration of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo X. The project was approved in 2019 with funding from the World Bank, aiming to address flooding, improve drainage infrastructure in the Greater Accra region. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
President John Mahama toured several flood-prone areas including Achimota, Malam Junction, Kaneshi First Light, and Odo Drain at Circle as part of efforts to tackle flooding in Accra. He was accompanied by members of the Anti-Flood Task Force chaired by Deputy Chief of Staff and Task Force Head Stan Dogbe. At Malam Junction, Stan Dogbe expressed concerns over a private business, Kitech Motors, illegally filling a Ramsar site and a water retention basin, warning that it could worsen flooding after heavy rains.
So you are selling the Ramsar site to a private company, and you are here to defend the fact that the company is filling the place up and causing problems. And you want us to continue this, Mr. President. I think that the task force we've gone around it, we've gone around water resources, we've gone around it. The challenge here is that over 1 million that which is being filled consistently by the company, two companies here, and then I think the VIP on the other side. They are the ones that are closest to the retention basin. So if you go to Blue Lagoon, which we have to drive to the other end, every house there, the water enters into the room. Don't do all the works that we are currently doing up there. If this siltation continues, and you can see that they are going.
In response, President Mahama ordered Kitech Motors to remove the silt and restore the area to prevent further environmental damage.
We'll take you to the Agric Ministry, where government launches the Operation Feed the Nation. We'll take you there now.
Daunting challenges that jeopardize food security, economic stability, and overall national progress. The country's heavy reliance on food imports, which totals over $2 billion per year, with poultry alone accounting for over $300 million, places Ghana at risk of external market fluctuations and currency instability. This dependency exacerbates food inflation, significantly affecting households and aggravating economic hardships for the most vulnerable populations. Although blessed with abundant agricultural resources, Ghana has struggled with food production inefficiencies, lack of infrastructure, limited access to essential inputs, and weak integration within the agricultural value chain. The smallholder farmers, who represent the backbone of the agricultural workforce, encounter formidable obstacles such as barriers to mechanization, difficulty in securing financing, and the absence of modern farming methods. These challenges hinder the ability to scale up operations and meet the increasing market demands. Additionally, substantial post-harvest losses persist due to insufficient storage and processing facilities, poor transportation networks, and inefficient market connections. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in response to these pressing issues, the government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, has adopted the Agriculture for Economic Transformation Agenda, ITA. This initiative aims to drive the growth and modernization of the agricultural sector, with goals to bolster agribusiness development, secure food availability, mitigate food inflation, increase export revenues, and generate sustainable job opportunities for the youth of our country. To effectively realize this vision, MOFA is about to roll out the Feed Ghana program as its flagship program. This is a comprehensive program designed to implement all elements of the ITA. The Feed Ghana program is an integrated agricultural acceleration program to boost agricultural production, to feed Ghanaians, and provide raw materials for agro-industry and create jobs. These efforts are intended to ultimately ensure food security, alleviate inflationary pressures on food prices, increase export potential, and support sustained economic growth in the long term. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the primary goal of the Feed Ghana program is straightforward: to transform Ghana's agricultural sector, reduce our import dependency, and boost both domestic production and export. We aim to ensure food security and improve nutritional outcomes while creating sustainable employment and empowering our youth and women. Now, these are some of the key initiatives under the Feed Ghana program. 1, advancement of smart agriculture. Under this, we are going to launch the Farmers Service Centers across the country to deliver essential mechanization support services, including training, technical guidance, and market access. We also establish farm banks within agricultural zones to facilitate land access and irrigation services, primarily aimed at young entrepreneurs and farmers. Then we have the Grains and Legumes Development Initiatives. This is to promote vital grains and legumes such as maize, rice, sorghum, and soybean for consumption, agro-industry, and export opportunities. This includes enhancing access to high-quality inputs like seeds, fertilizers, agrochemicals, as well as storage and processing infrastructure. Then we have number 3, Vegetable Development Project, also called Yeldua. Under this, we intend to implement controlled environment farming through greenhouses to enhance the production of tomatoes, onions, pepper, and other vegetables. We are also going to create sustainable, ready-to-cultivate spaces equipped with irrigation systems for open field cultivation. Offer technical assistance to urban and peri-urban vegetable farmers to advance for home, school, and community gardening programs. And then we are also looking at poultry industry revitalization. Under this, we want to introduce a poultry farm-to-table project to increase poultry production in partnership with Poultry Farmers Association, incentivize household poultry production, domestic consumption, and interest through the Nkoko Nketenkete program. Then we are also looking at livestock development initiative, which aims to boost the production of meat and dairy, particularly from cattle, pigs, and small ruminants, to strengthen the national livestock sector. Then we are also looking at what we call the Feed the Industry program. Under this program, we want to increase production of local raw materials for animal feed manufacturing to guarantee a steady supply of agricultural products for industrial use. We are also looking at the oil palm industry development formulate a national palm oil industry policy that offers incentives to palm oil production and value chain development to address the country's consumption deficit. Develop commercial palm plantations throughout the nation and promote outgrower schemes to position Ghana prominently in the global palm oil market. We are also looking at other industrial crop initiatives. Foster the cultivation and processing of additional industrial crops such as cashew, mango, coconut, shea, and rubber through agro-industrial zones. Investment in infrastructure and agro-production enclaves. We want to create agro-production enclaves equipped with essential infrastructure, including irrigation systems, access roads, and warehousing facilities to boost agricultural productivity and enhance market access. Innovative agricultural financing. We want to focus the Exim Bank to offer concessional financing for farmers and agricultural enterprises through cooperatives and community banks, particularly for export and value-added agricultural products, agricultural projects. Resource the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing Agricultural Lending (GESL) scheme to reduce lending risks and provide insurance coverage. Distinguished members of the press, as we embark on this journey, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture will lead the implementation of the Feed Ghana program in collaboration with other ministries such as Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Finance, Local Government, Parliament, Local Government Service, other departments and agencies, farmer organizations and private enterprises. The ministry will establish a national oversight committee to provide strategic direction and a technical implementation committee to offer essential technical support. These bodies will work in tandem to ensure the smooth execution of the program. The ministry will engage in consultation with stakeholders, develop detailed program documentation, and launch the Feed Ghana program, establishing the necessary structures for effective implementation. Together, we will forge a new path for Ghana's agriculture, a path that enhances food security, revitalizes our economy, and empowers our farmers. It is time to turn our rich agricultural potential into a reality.
Welcome back to News Today, but that was the Agric Minister briefing us on how to improve the agric sector. We'll also bring you details of how that will pan out a bit later in our subsequent bulletins. But away from that, the fight against illegal mining cannot be won without a strong and decisive judiciary. Land and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofibua has called on the judiciary to play a critical role in tackling illegal mining, stressing the need for dedicated courts to expedite cases related to environmental destruction. According to him, swift and firm legal action is crucial to deterring offenders and reinforcing the government's commitment to eradicate the menace. He was addressing the press in Accra.
We have to win together, and this fight is not going to be easy. I just told you that we reclaimed the Offin Shelter Belt, and these bad guys, armed to their teeth, attempted to go and turn it into red again. And in the process, they injured a forestry officer with family who is fighting for his life at Okonfo Anokye Teaching Hospital. My friends, this is serious. And so you cannot, in these circumstances, I just told you what we've done with arrests, 76 arrests, where we've sent the government trying to prosecute people, and the judge says they should give the excavators, and thanks to the legal team and the support of the people of Ghana, a 24-hour reverse of decision has been made. This government, within this short period, is doing everything possible to make sure that the people of Ghana will join us. so we can expose those few bad people who are putting us in this risk. So, but we can't continue to talk as if all we have to do is just give up. We can't give up. The past weekend, they were in the Western North, working through, and I think even their work left them chasing people, led them to the Western region. If you heard some stories, whether somebody has asked some military to stop, no. It had to do with them entering a region because they were focused on their work and they need to basically inform the other region that, we are entering this region. But because of the operational reasons, there was some miscommunication there. And that was sorted out. There was never any order by anybody, and I've said it, to stop the military to work. And I've said it again. This is a period where every police officer in this country cannot use the excuse that order from above. There's no order from above.
On legal enforcement, the minister outlined several initiatives aimed at strengthening the fight against illegal mining and restoring Ghana's degraded lands. These include the Tree for Life initiative to revive destroyed ecosystems, the geotagging of excavators at the port to track mining equipment, and the decentralization of license regime to empower local authorities. He also reaffirmed the government's stance that a few individuals cannot be allowed to profit at the expense of millions and pledged to explore financial avenues to support large-scale and land reclamation efforts.
Of emergency, whether or not to shoot and kill. My friends, these are people that are armed to their teeth and determined to even kill our
We're sorry about that. We'll bring that video back to you later. Now, a staggering 80% of women in Ghana's workforce battle reproductive health challenges. Yet, most workplaces lack policies to support them. That's the alarming finding of a new study by civil society organization Confidence, which identified severe menstrual pain and pregnancy-related issues as the most common struggles. The report raises urgent questions about workplace inclusivity, with managing partner of Confidence, Michael Koto, calling for stronger stakeholder engagements to push for gender-sensitive labor policies.
I think there is consensus that research evidence provides a solid basis to advocate for interventions, to advocate for change. So I think that's the single most important thing. The research has provided the evidence. Our job now is to keep the conversation going. Policymakers, companies, women, men, bring all stakeholders together. How can we work with the evidence that this Confidence research has produced?
The findings have caught the attention of the Office of the Vice President, which has pledged to introduce new policies to tackle these challenges. Now, speaking to Joy News, Policy Advisor Dr. Mariam Rahinat Idrisu underscored the need for breastfeeding, friendly workplaces, and more inclusive policies. She also revealed plans to establish a Women's Equity Committee, which will play a key role in implementing the affirmative action law, ensuring women's voices shape policy decisions.
Vice President is very prepared to nurture women and support women to grow. So one of the ways we are going to look at it is to continue the engagement. Yes, this doesn't even include the challenges of men within the workspace. We start from the workspace. We need a breastfeeding policy at the workspace. You don't need the Vice President to come to that level to ensure that there's a breastfeeding policy in place where women can even go sit there, breastfeed their children in a dignified environment. The conversation goes on, and we are prepared and ready to advocate for the full implementation of the affirmative action law.
You're watching News Today. We go for a quick break. When we come back, business. Please stay.
It's now time for business here on JoyNews Today. My name is Winston Taki, and our first business story. The Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Ghana, as part of measures keeping up with the constant evolution of logistics chains and the growing complexity of goods flows, has organized a two-day workshop for all logistics and warehouse professionals and practitioners to expose them to latest advancements, best practices and technology in the sector.
With the role of warehouse professionals becoming crucial to ensuring the competitiveness and efficiency of nations and companies, the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport organized its Warehouse Operations Management and Safety Workshop to empower its practitioners with the latest tools and insights needed to transform warehouse operations and contribute to more efficient and sustainable logistics supply chain management. Speaking at the event, President of SILT Ghana, Engineer Makamwama, highlighted the gaps in warehouse operations in Ghana and the need to ensure efficiency in the sector.
When it comes to safety element of it, look at, if you really visit a typical, in fact, manual warehouse operations, and you see the way they actually pack the stocks, you get to realize that in every step that they do, they apply what they call the lean operations management. Lean operations trying to keep the kind of gases, the kind of material that you actually put into your warehouse, is it something that is within the human environment? That, because you're going to stay in, you may have a whole office in there. We want to make sure that we don't get the people who call themselves or who may have practiced warehouse. At the end of the day, they leave with all kinds of problems.
Some of the critical areas the workshop focused on included inventory and stock control, warehouse robotics, and optimization of warehouse efficiency.
Now, away from that, the state paramount chief of ASEAN, Irinchi Nanapra Ajinsem, has urged the engineering community to collaborate with all sector players to ensure that Ghana's cities evolve into smart urban centers amidst rapid urbanization. He's made this call at the closing ceremony of the 55th Annual General Meeting and Conference of the Ghana Institute of Engineering.
Honorable Nanapra Ajinsem, the state paramount chief of ASEAN Irinchi, at the closing banquet for the 55th Annual General Meeting and Conference of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, urged the engineering community to work with all sector players to ensure cities become smart in the face of urbanization.
It's that which is called land. And our lands are being destroyed totally. Just so that few greedy individuals will be rich as against the very majority, significant, almost 99.9% of Ghanaians, that we can go to hell. Well, listen to this. We will not go to hell. We will fight this menace. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the name of unity and progress, let us to continue to work together, leveraging engineering as a tool for national development and transformation. My prayer, and I don't pray very often, but this evening my prayer is that the connections and lessons learned here will blossom into lasting partnership that will drive Ghana's growth.
President of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, Anan Hesse, pledged to continue to work to continue the mandate of the institution.
Hopefully, this will be the last time that the Engineering Excellence Awards will be combined with the dinner. It is our vision to raise the stature of the awards as a standalone program in a manner that will attract the required public interest and elevate innovation and excellence in the practice of engineering to a new level. I don't intend to bore you with a long address. I did that yesterday. Suffice it to say that you are all invited to join the bandwagon to lift the GHIE onto a high pedestal.
The 55th Annual General Meeting and Conference of the Ghana Institution of Engineering was under the theme Urbanization and Smart Cities, Engineering the Future of Ghana Cities.
That's all for business here on Joy News Today. My name is Winston Taki.